What if I told you the earth beneath your feet has been destroyed, rebuilt, drowned, frozen, and burned over and over again? What if I told you this planet once looked like a giant ball of fire, then an endless ocean, then a world ruled by giant insects, and later by dinosaurs? And here's the kicker. The Earth you know today, with its continents, oceans, mountains, and skies, is just one temporary version of our planet. Millions of years from now, it will look completely different again. So let's go on a journey, not just back in time a few hundred years, or even a few thousand. Let us go back hundreds of millions of years and uncover what Earth really looked like, long before humans, long before dinosaurs, long before forests even existed. By the end of this video, you want to just see Earth differently. You all realize you'll be standing on a living, breathing story that never stops changing. Earth is old, really old, more than 4.5 billion years old. That's such a big number, it's almost impossible to imagine. If the entire history of Earth was squeezed into a single calendar year, humans would only appear in the last few minutes of December 31st. For the rest of the year, our planet went through transformations so dramatic it's almost unbelievable. Oceans formed, continents collided, whole groups of creatures rose, dominated, and then disappeared forever. So, let's time travel. We'll move through Earth's major eras, see what the planet looked like, and understand how each change shaped the world we know today. Try to imagine this. You're standing on Earth right after it formed. Except, you can't stand anywhere. The entire surface is covered in lava. Volcanoes are erupting non-stop, filling the air with smoke and poisonous gases. The sky isn't blue, it's red and black, thick with ash. And then, to make things worse, giant space rocks keep slamming into the planet. Some of them are so big, they would wipe out whole continents if they hit today. Back then, Earth was constantly being bombarded. It sounds terrifying, but this violent beginning was necessary. Each collision delivered new minerals, metals, and even water locked inside icy comets. Slowly, Earth began to cool down. The crust hardened. The first oceans started to appear. For thousands of years it rained non-stop, filling giant basins with water. Can you imagine endless rain, falling for ages, creating the first seas? This was Earth's first great transformation, from fire into water. Now the Earth is mostly ocean. No continents, no forests, no animals. Just water, rocks, and a heavy toxic atmosphere. But something extraordinary happened deep in those oceans. Tiny life appeared. Not fish, not plants, not animals, but microscopic organisms. They were so small you couldn't see them without a microscope, but they changed the planet forever. These little microbes began producing oxygen. At first, that oxygen was trapped in the water, reacting with iron and turning the oceans rusty red. But after millions of years, oxygen started to fill the sky. Slowly, Earth's atmosphere changed from poisonous to breathable. The sky turned blue. This moment is sometimes called the Great Oxidation Event, and without it, none of us would be here today. Fast forward a few billion years. Earth now has oceans bursting with strange life, but it looks nothing like the oceans you know. This was the Cambrian explosion, a time when life suddenly became more complex. Imagine diving into the sea and seeing creatures that look like aliens. Trilobites with armored shells, spiky worms, jellyfish-like animals, and giant predators with sharp claws and huge eyes. There were no sharks, no whales, no dolphins. Instead, massive sea scorpions hunted in shallow waters, growing longer than humans. The oceans were Earth's first great battleground. Every creature was fighting for survival, inventing new body parts, claws, eyes, teeth, to outsmart the others. Evolution was in full swing. Up until now, the land was empty, just bare rock. But that was about to change. Plants made their way out of the water. At first, they were tiny moss-like patches clinging to damp ground, but over millions of years, they grew taller, stronger, and spread everywhere. Forests appeared for the first time. Imagine towering ferns and trees stretching into the sky, covering land that had once been barren. These plants pumped even more oxygen into the air, making Earth a lush green world. And soon, animals followed. Strange amphibians crawled out of the sea, their fins turning into legs. Picture an early creature, half fish, half salamander, clumsily dragging itself across the mud. This was the first step toward life on land. Now we've entered one of the strangest times in Earth's history, the Carboniferous period. Forests covered the planet and oxygen levels were much higher than today. That extra oxygen allowed insects to grow to monstrous sizes. Imagine walking through a swampy forest and seeing dragonflies with wings as wide as your arm span, spiders as big as your head, millipedes longer than a car. The air would be thick, humid, buzzing with the sound of giant insects. And under your feet? Thick layers of plants and trees. Over millions of years, those plants were buried and compressed, turning into the coal and fossil fuels we burn today. So, next time you see a piece of coal, remember, you're holding a piece of an ancient forest from 300 million years ago. This is the era most of us think of when we imagine ancient Earth. Dinosaurs ruled the land for over 160 million years, but Earth looked very different. The continents were all joined together in one giant landmass called Pangaea. Imagine being able to walk from Africa to North America without ever touching the ocean. Deserts stretched across the middle, while lush forests grew near the coasts. Dinosaurs came in every shape and size. Some were small, like chicken-sized raptors darting through forests. Others were enormous, like Brachiosaurus, taller than a 5-story building. And of course, the fierce Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the most powerful predators ever to live. But it wasn't just dinosaurs. The skies were filled with flying reptiles called pterosaurs, and the oceans were ruled by massive marine reptiles like the Mosasaurus. For millions of years, Earth was alive, loud, and wild, until disaster struck. Earth has experienced at least 5 mass extinctions, and each one completely reshaped the planet. The most famous was 65 million years ago, when a massive asteroid slammed into what's now Mexico. The impact unleashed energy billions of times stronger than nuclear bombs. The sky filled with dust blocking sunlight. Plants died, animals starved, and the dinosaurs vanished almost overnight. But this wasn't the only extinction. Long before, there was the Permian extinction, which killed 90% of all life, the closest Earth has ever come to being completely wiped out. Imagine entire oceans turning lifeless, forests disappearing, and nearly every species vanishing. These extinctions sound like endings, but in reality, they were beginnings. Each time, life bounced back, evolving into new forms, creating new worlds. With the dinosaurs gone, mammals took over. At first they were small and furry, but with time they grew into incredible forms. Giant ground sloths bigger than cars, woolly mammoths trudging across icy plains, saber-toothed cats with enormous fangs. Earth itself was changing too. The Himalayas rose as India slammed into Asia. Continents drifted into the positions we recognize today. Ice ages came and went, covering much of the world in glaciers. Imagine standing in Europe 20,000 years ago. You'd see walls of ice stretching for miles, mammoths grazing, and small groups of humans huddled around fires, fighting for survival. This was the Earth just yesterday in geological terms. Finally, humans appeared. Just a few million years ago, on the vast plains of Africa, our ancestors stood upright and began their journey. We discovered fire. We built tools. We painted on cave walls, telling the first stories of survival. And eventually, we spread across the world, building cities, creating technology, and leaving our mark on Earth's surface. But here's something humbling. If Earth's history was a 24-hour clock, humans would only appear in the last few seconds. Everything else, from the dinosaurs to the giant insects to the ancient oceans, came long before us. So, what did Earth look like millions of years ago? It looked like everything. It was a fireball of lava. It was a water world with alien oceans. It was a green jungle buzzing with giant insects. It was the kingdom of dinosaurs. It was the frozen plains of mammoths. And finally, it became the world of humans. But here's the truth. Earth isn't finished. Continents are still drifting. Volcanoes are still reshaping the land. Ice ages will return. And millions of years from now, Earth will once again look completely different. So the next time you step outside, take a deep breath, look at the ground, look at the sky, and remember, you are standing on a planet that has survived chaos, destruction, and rebirth. And its greatest story is still being written.